I was so tired of hearing people say that we were a generation that had overcorrected and we were now indulging our kids, and that sometimes they just have to get in the effing car. That was what the post said. And I know it was meant to be funny, but what ensued was the barrage of comments that came underneath. It was like, yeah, I don't have to listen to these kids and they just need to do what they need to do. And then at other times I was like, wait, do people think that they're supposed to be like listening and empathizing and then just like waiting for their kids to magically do what they wanted? And I was like, well, yeah, of course we're going to end up in empathy burnout at that point, because if you just empathize and listen and then don't take any action, we set ourselves up for struggles. And then we're kind of at the beck and call of our kids, right? Because we don't actually give them a chance to feel. If we're not giving them a chance to kind of feel the struggle, then they don't get good at knowing that they can recover. There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to What to Do When Empathy Runs Out, or when it's in overdrive, because that's how I've been feeling these days. I don't know how you guys have been feeling. Actually, let me shut off the waiting room, figure out how to do that, and then I'm going to tell you why I wanted to do this video poll, and then we can do this. I would love if you would pop in the chat. Let me know if you didn't email me. Let me know why you're here today, what you're hoping to get out of it. You guys know that I could talk for hours. If you're new, my name's Lori. I'm the founder of Teach Through Love, and I have been doing this work for 20 years now, more really, actually, which is crazy to think about. And so I, of course, feel like a broken record at this point, but I know that I actually saw a lot of new people on the list that signed up. So I would love, if you don't know me, that's a little bit about who I am. I founded Teach Through Love because I had a really challenging childhood and I did not have good communication skills. And it was through having my own daughter that I actually focused my advocacy and my desire to change how we engage with our kids and help us create better relationships, because it's something that I never had as a kid. So that's why I do the work. I have not been able to host a live webinar in so long. And that's why I have not been on for a while. So I'm really excited to actually get to connect this time again, take this time out, have a little time in the summer. Oh, good. There's the chat. All right. Hi, Tasha. Well, let me say hello. Hi, Amanda, Angelina, Denise, Emily, Jay, Maria, Pamela, Tasha, Teresa. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day. If you're watching the recording, I'm so glad that you are taking the time out of your day to watch the recording, even if you couldn't make it live, because I know it is in the middle of the day for some people. So I'm new. I'm looking to gain skills for my teenage daughter. I grew up the same way. Nice to meet you. Okay, so for a lot of us that grew up without that relational support, we do, as much as we have the best intentions, it can be really difficult. We can really struggle with our own, whether it's giving too much because we feel like we have to give what we didn't get and then we overgive, or whether it's running out of compassion too quick, like our tolerance is not enough. So I want to talk about those two things specifically. I should have prefaced with, if you have a history of trauma, this is not mental health advice. This is for educational purposes. So please take good care, because it would not be uncommon. People have all different kinds of reactions, but if you start to sit with your emotions and it feels uncomfortable, please take good care to recognize your own body's signals. And if it's saying this is too much for me, you stop. I just wanted to connect with other like-minded people today. Awesome. Welcome, Denise. I'm not very good with Zoom either, so feeling pretty clunky here. No worries. You just sit back and enjoy. So my name is Amanda. My son is with me. He hopes to learn with me. He hopes we can all feel overwhelmed at times. It's great to learn more tools to be empathetic. Great. I don't know if it's always, I don't know how old your son is. Obviously make the decisions that are best, but I just want you to know that ahead of time, that sometimes it may feel awkward for kids, or we may be talking about things that maybe feel grown-up like, and I don't know how old he is, so just take that into consideration if anyone has little ones around. But hi, Amanda. Welcome. either way, we'll definitely talk about what to do in those stressful times. Hi, Pamela. Pamela is an LPCA. I'm not sure what the A stands for, but welcome in Texas. Thank you for being here. I love when we have professionals who are working with other families join, because you guys get to also spread that work out and work with many different people and spread the information to support many people. So that's awesome. I really, really, really thank you for being here. Oh, and you're so kind. Thank you for your kind words too. Hello to the iPhone user. I can't see your name, but I'm glad you're here. I'm having trouble maintaining my empathy and compassion with frequent, strong reactions from my spicy kids, 12, 9, and 5. Yeah, it's a lot going on, right? Pamela, associate. That's what it means. Got it. Oh, good to know. Okay, so, and then I guess that A gets dropped when you finish your supervision. Well, good luck with all of that. And thank you for learning. There are so many in our, whether they're educators or therapists, that are still learning about this work. So I'm really, really excited when I see people like that are still in very punitive behavioral mindsets, is what I mean by that. Very left brain, logical, behavioral mindsets. And if you guys know me, and if you don't know me, you'll find out we are on the opposite end, because we know that behavior doesn't shift long term except through that relational bond, through that trust, through that influence. And we can't have the influence if we don't have the relationship, right? And it's kind of cyclical. And then the relationships become tough when we're not regulated. But today, I don't want to talk about helping you get more regulated, though I will give you some tools and tips, because really quick, yes, there is another class, a workshop, summer workshop. So if you're interested, I'm interviewing Dr. Nicole Kane, author of Panic Proof. I got this book. I thought it was going to be like half the size. I thought it was going to be like that. When I got it, it was like double the size. This is like a manual resource book with stories. Like, it's so comprehensive. But I'm doing an interview with her. We might make it a webinar class, but either way, you'll get to ask questions and submit them ahead of time for me. And that's just an extra for the class that we're doing. So if something in you today feels like, oh yes, I'm on to something, sign up, work with me for 2 more weeks, and we'll help you keep digging deeper. All right, that's enough about that. You can find out everything that you need to online. Quincy, no worries to join late. We're actually just getting started. I have a poll I want to share, because I want to find out. A lot of you told me how old your kids are, but let's start with that. And let's see, I'm in Reading, Massachusetts. Hello, Massachusetts. I have 2 neurodivergent boys. This is so great for neurodivergent parents, kids, all of that, because we tend to have a higher, whether it's anxiety, sensitivity to stressors, all of that stuff can be more intense for us. And we have an 11 and 12-year-old. Okay, that was what I was going to do. I was going to do a poll that asked how old your kids were. Let me just do that. And you guys pop that in. I'm going to open my slides. I have slides too. I made slides today. Awesome. Let's see. So we have the most amount of kids right now are between, oh, wait, it evened out. Wow. You guys, we have like sort of, although these numbers don't, oh, because you have more than one. I guess that's why. So I'm like, these numbers don't add up to 100. How's that possible? It's because you have more than one. But we have a really nice mix. You guys, we have like almost even numbers of little kids, 6 to 11, 12 to 17, and 18 plus, which makes total sense, because the questions I got, if I did not pull out your specific questions that you sent in, I definitely tried to pull one that was like that and group them together, because I got so many that I couldn't get to everybody's. But I see now why I had such the vary, because we have kids from all over. Oh, we have grandparents here too. Awesome. Oh, we have some without any kids, but that's okay, because if you're a professional, you're either working with kids. I have friends that have listened to my work, like friends from back in the day, like when I was just going through my healing journey, that tell me that they listened to my work because it helped them heal, and they don't even have kids, and they didn't even flip. Now we're older, they're not even having kids. So if you don't have kids, that's okay too. No worries. Awesome. So we have like 5, 8, 7, 4, the whole mix of kids everywhere. So I will definitely cater that to everybody, so that you can or cater our talks and our information, because things look different at different ages. And you probably know that, but what we say to a 3-year-old to help them feel comforted is so very different than what we might say to that 15-year-old who needs to feel comforted. And the things that we do say to the 3-year-old can feel intrusive and like awful to the older child. And then vice versa. So you can also kind of adapt it based on your personality and your kids, because please know the only absolute here is kindness, that you treat yourself with kindness, so that you're able to do it on the outside, but it starts here. And there are no like absolutes in terms of the words that we use. They're guidelines. Even if you have my cards, you'll see that it's not the exact scripts. It's those perspective shifts that are above each sample word that are most important, because what we want to do is really shift our perspective. So this class actually came about because I was so tired of hearing people say that we were a generation that had overcorrected and we were now indulging our kids, and that sometimes they just have to get in the effing car. That was what the post said. And I know it was meant to be funny, but what ensued was the barrage of comments that came underneath. It was like, yeah, I don't have to listen to these kids and they just need to do what they need to do. And then at other times I was like, wait, do people think that they're supposed to be like listening and empathizing and then just like waiting for their kids to magically do what they wanted? And I was like, well, yeah, of course we're going to end up in empathy burnout at that point, because if you just empathize and listen and then don't take any action, we set ourselves up for struggles. And then we're kind of at the beck and call of our kids, right? Because we don't actually give them a chance to feel like, if we don't set the limit and we wait for them to just agree to the limit, well, one, they might not agree, but then even if they do, if we're not giving them a chance to kind of feel the struggle, then they don't get good at knowing that they can recover. And so maybe there are people out there that are over empathizing and that are never able to make that shift because, oh, I'm stuck. Or maybe I'm like out of compassion and I am like just letting things happen, being sort of passive. And I want to hear about what your experience is, but I wanted to just let you know that, because that's kind of how I came about wanting to create the class. And I certainly know what it's like, because I feel, for me, the world is really scary right now. And for a lot of people, that's true. And I don't like what I'm seeing, and I don't like the treatment of children that I'm seeing out there. Aside from the treatment of adults, I don't like the language that we're all using to discuss our societal issues. And I wanted to just normalize a little bit of that empathy burnout, because that's kind of a predictable outcome of stress, but then also say, what do we do with that? And if you're also caring for others, that's another added stress. Actually, I said I was going to open my slides. Let me do that for you. All right. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So what I really want to do is normalize, like I said, some of that empathy burnout. It's expected in kind of stresses that we're going through. If you have trauma history, if your child has a trauma history, if you have an adopted child, foster child, child that's been through any kind of a loss, medical trauma, things that we don't even think of that could affect kids. Like we might think, oh, they had a bunch of surgeries, but they were so little, they were 2 and 3, and now they're 9 and 10. And trauma changes the system, right? It changes the nervous system. And so what we see, and somebody actually asked us in their question, how they noticed that a lot of their child's behaviors were connected to fear. We'll talk about not just the child's behavior. And yes, like these anxieties show up in the behavior. And sometimes our kids aren't aware, they can't verbalize, oh, I'm feeling anxious, and that's why I'm running around and can't stop touching things, or that's why I am rude and aggressive when you ask me a simple question, kind of thing. So I want to help us just keep normalizing, because we run around and we try to fix it, or we try to say, okay, well, what is this linked to? What's the root cause? I got to find it. I got to fix it. I got to get to it. And like, yes, finding the root cause is super important. But today we're just going to kind of hang out and sit with, like, figure out how we can sit with the discomfort, because that's often what is stopping us from moving through our obstacles, is that we're trying to rush through to feel better or to help our kids feel better. And then what does that lead to? It leads to a lot of self-abandonment. It leads to us denying our own needs because we're trying to control the outside to make the inside feel better. And again, we could talk about that for days, but I've tried to really just bring it down to a couple of concepts and a couple of tools to help you all walk away with just something different, or at least permission to sit with your discomfort wherever that shows up for you. And then to know that when your kids experience it, it's okay. And I want to point out that a lot of the self-abandonment comes from, we mix up our needs and our kids' behaviors, that we think that they're in competition. We don't realize that what we're seeing is not really, and what we want is not our need. So we're going to do a quick exercise today to show you how they're different and how we often end up blaming our kids for things that are out of their control. So there is a way to reset, right, without losing more compassion or without becoming authoritarian. But instead of trying to fix things or fix yourself or get more regulated, I know that I myself have focused on helping people get more regulated. But really, at first, we have to acknowledge what our body is doing and that that's a protective thing. Instead of just shaking it off, wrapping our arms around it and saying thank you. And really noticing, what is my body telling me right now? And listen, I talked about this for years and was ignoring my own body. Talking about it and knowing it in our heads is so much different. I remember reading, this is another book recommendation besides Dr. Nicole Kane's, who's is new, but Dr. Peter Levine. Does anyone know him? Yes. So some people, yes, well, I mean, not personally, but I know his work is, I don't know him personally either, but his work, his somatic work for the body, for getting in touch what's happening with our nervous system. So helpful. And he helps us sit with it instead of like always pushing it away. So practices to reset without, again, losing that compassion or becoming control freaks, or authoritarians or passive. Sometimes it's not that we're overly controlling, but that we just kind of check out because it's too much for our system. So we might become yes people, not even just with our kids. Yeah. And then becoming yes people does, again, leads to that self-abandonment, because we end up denying our needs because we're trying to please everyone. Oh my gosh, it was just getting darker. And I hope that the electricity stays on. But Dr. Peter Levine, Waking the Tide. I can't think of his books offhand. My brain is like shutting down, but it's Levine with an E on the A on the end. And he's got some amazing, even just listening to him on YouTube, you can get some of his exercises. So goals that we have, definitely want to identify the personal signals, because it's going to be different for everyone. Personal signals of our empathy burnout. I want us to look at some relational domains, and I'll talk more about what that is later, and figure out what feels out of balance and how we can maybe address that. Building clarity on why you feel so depleted and some ideas for building your tolerance. I think I mentioned that. We'll talk more about that. I also want you to decide on 2 ways that you will practice removing control from your interactions. We're going to do a lot of personal investigation. You'll continue it offline. So grab a notebook, grab a journal, grab the notes app on your phone, whatever you like to use, or a piece of paper and a pen, keep it in your pocket or in your drawer, in a book by your night table, wherever is somewhere that you'll go grab it. And think about how control shows up in your interactions after we go through the session today. And then one thing that I added that I didn't actually have on here, but I wanted to add it at the end, is compile your first aid kit for stress. I used to carry this first aid kit for stress in our car with us all the time. It was for my daughter, but it became for everybody because I learned about it as an adult. So I created one that worked for us. It had everything from candies, hard candies, anything like things that you can suck on or chew. It had essential oils, things that helped, stress balls, things that helped me calm down that were on the go. So in my classes, we talk about having like a sensory basket in the house, a bin where you can go and access those kinds of tools. So you don't have to like think or run around. It's like, oh yeah, I really know that I love putting on my headphones, zoning out for a minute to my favorite like chill music. That is definitely something that you would like add to your sensory kit. whether that's like, well, nowadays we have phones, but the idea is to create tools that we can have that easy access. So if you do not have one, please create one. What I want to do right now is ask you, I'm going to put up another poll, and I want to ask you what feels, let's see if it'll pop up. But you tell me what describes you right now, and I'm going to put on some lights. Ooh, okay, let's see. Oh, interesting. Nobody is numb and disconnected. I feel angry and reactive. About 40%. The other 40% feel confused and unsure. And then about 10% feel like I'm failing, and 10% feel like all of the above. Oh, okay, so that would include numb and disconnected. None of those were I'm feeling bad for, let's see. None of those were I'm feeling bad for middle school girls right now. Ooh, tell me more about that specifically, how that's showing up for you, Quincy.
Can I talk or do I have to type?
No, you can talk,
Okay.
definitely. Please
Okay.
do. Yes.
Off camera. I'm in California, so I was just making lunch because I didn't have time to eat breakfast. But
No worries.
let me start my video. So I have an 11-year-old. I've been a parent for 35 years. My oldest would be 35, but he passed away in 2009. I have a daughter that's 33 with two little grandkids. So I've been parenting for 35 years. But my problem is that being a third-time mom, starting at age 43, and now having an almost 12-year-old, I obviously can see the difference between my first go around with a daughter who's 33 versus my 21 years later, 11-year-old daughter going through middle school. And my 11-year-old is very old soul, right? Her brother passed away. She was a result of his passing, which, trust me, the first year that he was passed away, and people kept saying, "Would you have another baby?" And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." And then I did. What is so different, and she's so old worldly and so mature for her age in every sense of the word, with the exception that I'm very strict with her. Like, she doesn't have a phone yet, and she can't have Snapchat, and she can't have all of these things yet because I know down the road what it looks like. I can see the show down the road because I've walked the show, I've done the show down the road. But for her, like, she's at camp this week, and she's a basketball camp. She's not a basketball player, but she went because a dear friend of hers wanted her to go. But now this friend is being bratty to her while she's at this camp that she doesn't even really, really want to be at. So her managing the middle schooler friends' emotions because they're so off the walls and bat SHIT crazy so much of the time. Like, the amount of drama that we had as a first year middle schooler last year, I was like, oh my God, I wanted to pull her out of school like a million times and say, I'm just going to homeschool you so you don't have to go through this because it's so incredibly intense. So that's why I'm feeling sad for them, because their parents are letting them. And they'll say, the other parents, even one just said this to me on Sunday, wow, you're really strict. And I said, no, I'm not strict. It is not a strictness, it's a preference. And it's a knowing what can happen and knowing that my 11-year-old isn't ready for all of these things that are going on. It has nothing to do with, I don't think she should have it and I think it's bad. It's not okay for 11-year-olds.
I so feel that. Thank you for sharing that and expounding on that a little bit, because I'm right there with you. It's honestly, it's terrifying sometimes too, because of things like the instant access. Like, kids can't, you don't have to, like, when you used to be able to come home, bullying might happen and then you could leave and come home, right? But now it follows you, it follows them. And like you said, even if they don't have their phones, and eventually they'll get to it, or it's being posted and other people can see it, things like that. It's, oh, that's when I start to, like, also my brain starts to swirl, because I know that we can't fix everything in a minute. Our society is what it is at the moment. I don't think that we know or we didn't know, because I feel like my daughter was like the last generation to at least not have devices right around her until she was like 5 or 6 before I even had an iPhone. So I had obviously a phone, but we didn't have, like, we weren't sitting there on our phones while everything was going on, and they certainly didn't have them, but she still was swept up in it because now she's 19 and she's had it since 13. And we were like the test generation of that. So I commend you for being able to hold back, because you're right. It's scary what's so available to them that they can't handle, because these things are like, oh, on one hand, it might be like, oh, well, they're just learning, and, everybody goes through this and they need to get strong. It's like, no, it's very different. First of all, it's not that nobody needs to get strong by being torn down. First of all, that's that mentality that also started this whole, like, let's come back and have a webinar again, because why are we in this authoritarian mindset again, where we think it's okay to use fear and violence, whether it's through word or physicality, it's still violence. And my only solution is to keep doing the work that we do and know that we've made so much impact as parents, because whether it's we're holding strong in our own families, or whether we are immersed in a community, to be lucky enough to be immersed in a community of like-minded people where we can actually have that support close by, and then we can kind of, we grow as a community. We then attract more and more and more. I know that there weren't as many people doing this when I first came online. There were not as many people doing this work that were able to connect. Like, maybe they were out there in the real world, but we weren't connecting online like this. It wasn't a mass swell of information being pushed out there to help people change how they parent. Again, we could talk on this. You guys know I could get on my soapbox forever about that. So I don't want to go on off and on a tangent for so long, but thank you for bringing that up. And let's just keep talking about that. And in terms of how do we sit with it? What do we do? How do we protect in ways that make us feel like we're having an impact, but that also like give our kids the freedom to live their lives as well, because we can't bubble wrap them, of course. My 12-year-old doesn't have, Maria says, my 12-year-old doesn't have a phone. I'm hoping to hold off until the end of middle school. He only has a watch for communication purposes. That's amazing that he can have that, because then you can still have that contact. Because I think that's part of the thing too, is it's so scary for parents not to be able to contact their kids now that we have, that we give in to that out of feeling that necessity too. No blame or shame, no matter when your kid has had a phone, whether it was 5, 6, 7. Now, my kid did have an iPad that she had access to when she was like not 8, 9, in those years, like not constant access like they have now today on their phones. But I wish I would have, I don't want to live in regret, but I definitely see the impact now and wish I would have had maybe more. I don't even know. Would I would have had more limits? Would I have had more? Because it's not like it's a problem now, but I think on their mental health is where it really hits them. It says our school has a no phone policy and it's 6 to 12. Oh, the grades 6 to 12. Yeah. Okay. All right, let me go back. I don't want to get too much off topic. Thank you guys for sharing that. And let's talk about how we are feeling and how to move through that. Let me go back and share again our slides. So those were our goals. And I think we talked a little bit about this. So if we're feeling all of those things, whether it's I feel like I'm failing, or I feel like I'm angry and reactive, or whether it feels like numb, disconnected, all of the above, let's think about how our childhood prepared us to deal with the pressures that we're feeling right now. Those messages about, like somebody said, I grew up like you. So how did those messages of your childhood, whether they're messages about control, messages about our worth, how did they shape you? I shared a post recently that talked about how I was always punished and how it created in me this sense of you're going to get in trouble. Like it's unconscious, and it's like my nervous system remembers it. Like hearing someone's voice or hearing a certain sound can throw me into this, my body, not even my logical mind, but my body goes into this state of like, you're going to get in trouble. And it's this unconscious fear, whether it's my mother's voice would pop up when I was frustrated or, conflicted about something or unable to figure something out, how to move forward with my kid. But when the messages I received often were, you're not good enough. And so I carried that forward with me. And then oftentimes there would be times when my kid would need me and I would feel triggered by that sense of her needing me to do something. And then I'd be caught between, well, if I give in, then I deny myself. And if I don't deny myself, well, then am I ignoring her? And so if you're feeling confused about where that boundary is, think about those messages that you got. And you don't have to share them here, but if you want to, because it always helps when people share their experiences, and whether it triggers our own mind or whether it just helps us feel a little bit more connected, please feel free to share that. But what I want you to do is take your journal, take that piece of paper, and write this question down. What messages did I take away from my childhood? And sometimes we'll even think, or we'll say to ourselves, you know what, my childhood was fine. Yeah, my parents punished us, that was the time, but they weren't overly cruel. They didn't call us names, all these things, but were those messages? Sometimes that's emotional neglect too. We don't see it. It's not overt abuse. It's, were your feelings tended to? Was there someone that said, hey, you're angry? That's okay. This is what you were feeling. This is what we can do to work it out. Or when there was a problem, or when you did get in trouble, were your feelings considered? Because if they weren't, then we're still working on a nervous system that has not yet really adapted to be not in that state of anxiety. Let me see, we had some things pop up. I can't think of anything specific, but I tend to believe the negative or that I'm falling short. Okay, so again, and I don't want us to feel like we have to dig through our childhoods and have therapy sessions every time something pops up. But if there's a specific trigger for you, you definitely want to think about what this is connected to. And I would totally do all of that with us here and walk you through all the exercises, but we would be here all day and I would never have time. But I want to tell you so that you can do this on your own. The easiest thing to do is every time you kind of get triggered with your kids, jot it down and go back and investigate. And sometimes investigating means I'm just going to go back and sit with what was that feeling that popped up, and kind of then just wait, let it come to you. You don't have to do anything specifically, but wait and see if some other memory pops up for you. Some other, I don't want you to have to think hard about what your childhood was like. This is not about going and doing some, it's definitely personal investigation, but it's more about waiting and letting because sometimes an emotion or that feeling of say you have a feeling that comes up and you're unsure. If that makes you feel stress, then if it makes us feel stressed, we want to rush to quash that or to squelch it. We want to be able to get rid of it sometimes, instead of kind of letting that feeling of being unsure to sit with it and see where it takes us. And so that's what we want to get good at practicing, of seeing where that takes us. So when you have a moment, we can't always do it right in the moment, because sometimes we're trying to get out the door, we're busy cooking, or we're busy, getting our kids ready, or we're working or whatever, and we can't actually stop and consider that trigger. But if you just jot it down, and then at the end of the day, look at all of the times that you felt yourself become reactive or overly emotional about something, and see what that was connected to. See if there are any stories. You don't even have to figure it out. If the story came up that said, who was it that someone said, oh wait, here you guys are popping in some things. I tend to believe the negative, or that I'm falling short. So that message of I am falling short. Who wants to feel like that? Nobody wants to feel like that, but we don't want to push that away either. We want to invite that in so that it doesn't take up space in our brains and in our minds anymore. Someone else said, when I would get hurt, my mom would say, oh, you're fine, even if I wasn't. We can just do that over and over with our own kids, not unconsciously even, because we think it's not that we're consciously thinking that, oh, they're fine. It's it's just an automatic instinct. We can also go the opposite direction and then never let them go through it. So again, finding that balance, because we don't want to rush to them and make them think they're less okay than they actually are by being overly worried, but we also don't want to disconnect from them. And sometimes we can disconnect, and not even consciously. So it's not that we're making this conscious decision. It just can pop up. I remember another story from a client. It's not an abusive situation, but still detrimental. I call it the silent bus story. And their parents, this person's parents, used to, whenever they were driving in the car, they said it was silent bus time. They were not allowed to speak in the car ever. Did the parents have reasons where they had a lot of kids? Were they trying to, keep things quiet so they could focus? Maybe. Did they have needs? Absolutely. But could that experience over and over and over, could that possibly contribute to some avoidance or silence now or an inability to deal with maybe kids when they're being too loud? Absolutely. Could that present unconscious pressures or relational challenges? Absolutely. And if it's stuff that we never really considered, we're not going to be aware of it. So when I say, please think about these things, it's not because I want you to go back and like dwell on bad memories. And I don't even want you to think, I want you to feel. I want you to feel your way into it. Because if you are feeling avoidant, if you're fall into silence when things get tough with your kids because you don't know what else to do, you also want to be able to sit with that. And not because, are you saying, Lori, that every time it comes up, I have to sit in these awful feelings? It makes you more able to, the next time a tough feeling comes up or you feel yourself getting reactive, the more you're able to drop down into your body, notice, oh, my chest feels tight. Notice, oh, I can't talk right now. I'm having trouble finding my words. All of those things. And then honoring it, wrapping your arms around it and saying, thank you for protecting me. A lot of the times we think our panic, our shutdown, our over controlling, our anxious behaviors, whatever it is, we think that those are things that are bad and that we should get rid of. And do we want to rewire our nervous system? Absolutely. But we can't rewire it by denying what it's already doing, by trying to stop what it's already doing. So think about right now the sensations that happen in your body. But I want you to actually feel them when it happens. So when you're going through and you're having those moments of being reactive, if you can jot down anything or just take notice of the sensations that you feel in your body and just say thank you. Like don't do anything. Don't try to analyze them. Did someone say that they would analyze? I always think I'm going to get in trouble, so I have to analyze and overthink. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So the tendency, and this is my tendency too, so it might resonate for some of you, is to think about my emotions. It's like, yeah, no, I got it. I thought about it all. Thought about how I was feeling angry, and I thought about how I was feeling judgmental, and I thought about how I was feeling uncomfortable. I thought about it all, and I know why I did it. That we cannot think our way out of this. Don't think your way out of it. Don't go, oh yeah, I thought about it. I know, I recognize and I connected it to something. When it's happening, I want you to actually feel it. Now, if sitting with your overwhelm is too much, it starts to become to the point where your anxiety is rising, then you pause. But starting to sit with it is the process so that you can reframe it as your body taking care of you. Whatever your particular reactive pattern is, and sometimes we have different patterns with different people, that pattern was created to keep you safe. It was formed early on. No matter what kind of childhood we had, our ways of reacting and responding and communicating were all formed out of our early experiences. But what we've done, I think, is we've focused so much on and trust me, I love self-care. It's really important. But I feel like maybe we have overcorrected in the way of making people think that they can't have anxiety, that they can't have anger. Now, I've always talked about, if you've taken any of my classes, and I know some of you guys are in my classes, the one thing that we always talk about is that all emotions are welcome. Like they're all important. They all tell us something. And that We don't want to actually stuff down our anger with our kids. We don't want to necessarily explode on them either. If it happens, we repair, but working to build our nervous system is so that we can feel our way through that anger and manage it. It's not to get rid of it. It's to actually work with the emotions. And many times people will think, well, my kids are still getting upset, or I'm still getting angry. So yeah, if you were in a pattern where your days are miserable because you're angry and you're reacting, or that's happening with your kids, then definitely we have something to look at. But in general, we have good days and bad days. I have some days where I'm just like, my mood is I just don't feel it, or I'm feeling cranky for some reason, or, the pressure is too high and my sinuses are hurting and I don't even recognize it, but it's coming out and being not so nice. So when it's a long-term pattern is when it's really something we want to look at. But overall, our emotions, they vary, and they move up and down on a scale every day. So we want to really reframe our panic, shutdown, whatever it is, as ways that our bodies are keeping us safe. So take note, figure out what are the signals. Think of some signals that your body sends you that says, I'm feeling unsafe. I'm feeling, and unsafe can manifest in many different feelings, that story that we tell ourselves, but it starts in the body. For me, what happens, like when I'm feeling threatened, immediately, like every part of my body feels like it's going to shake, is something that happens to me. Did I hear someone want to share what happens to them? I heard someone unmuted. No? Okay. If you do, go ahead, unmute yourself. Let's see. Someone said, I feel unwanted, makes it hard to connect with my daughter who always wants to be with me. Oh, if we felt that, it sounds like feeling unwanted as a child and then making it hard to connect now. Oof. Learned again, our bodies learned to protect. So if we felt unwanted, then connection is going to feel unsafe because our bodies adapted to survive in the unwanted state. And that's why, again, our kids often are triggering. So what comes up for you in your mind or your body when you're struggling to be compassionate? Yes, in your body, that sensation. And then in your mind is, what is that story? And that one of that feeling of being unwanted. So your body creates safety around being unwanted. So isolating feels safer than connection. And then what happens? Our kids who constantly need to connect become a threat. So rewiring our brain out of that, when that threat feeling happens, is that we connect with it, that we pause, that we slow. And I know that we can't do this every time that we get upset. We can't do this, but there are more often than not plenty of times during the day when we are able to take that moment, because as long as no one is like hurt or in need of our immediate emergency attention, then we can move on. Someone says, all of my needs angered one parent and were waved off as nothing by the other. Ooh. So what do we do with our needs when one parent, it angers them, and then another parent doesn't have anything to do with it? That tells us that our needs then are, again, not safe to have, not safe to share, not safe to want. And again, logically, I could go, I know I feel angry. I know it's connected to this, and I don't want to feel that way, but that doesn't stop my nervous system. If we feel unwanted, we feel unsafe. I have never thought about it before, but it's so correct. How could we trust someone who doesn't want us and have our best interests at heart? Of course. And we're biologically designed to attach to our caregivers. Our bodies adapt to being unwanted, to being shamed, to being blamed, to being judged, to being loved and then not loved. And then, when it's conditional, we adapt to that because our nature is to survive. And so it's just that biological imperative to figure it out, right? To work with whatever. And that's what our kids do too. It's like, oh, mom's angry. I'm gonna I'm going to then keep a low profile. Or maybe I'm too anxious to do that, but I know that she's mad and that's going to make me more anxious. So we're constantly adapting to our situations, and it's based on our patterns. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Okay, so what activates an authoritarian perspective or actions? What is it? Say it with me, everybody. Fear. It's fear. Who said that they know that their child's behavior is fear coming out? So even the authoritarian is motivated by fear. Their over controlling comes from fear, from that feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, not having any power. So being willing to overpower others. I'm just looking over my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. Just back to that self-abandonment really quickly. Whether it was self-abandonment to please others, to, keep ourselves safe. Think about today what we do. I found that I am such a fawner sometimes, y'all, and it shocked me because I feel like, like I try to be upfront, and I was a very introverted, neurodivergent, autistic child. It was like could not talk, and now I can, I've had lots of years of experience, and I can get myself through it. But I realized I was working with this group, and I was like, I am fawning. You all, I am like, and what is that? It's like being a people pleaser or being overly gracious so that people like me or so that people will listen to me. And I realized, so it became my mission every day to go in and stay in my own skin and not fawn and not like smile just because I wanted, and I wasn't doing it consciously. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I want them to like me, so I have to do this. It was my pattern that I just was not fully aware of. So think about, so taking care of our needs doesn't mean that we're just like not, eating, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough nutrition, not connecting with people, not having me time. It's sometimes that we are going out of our way to do things for other people. The self-abandonment is we're not aware of then how we're coming off, how we're communicating, and it just sets us up for all kinds of miscommunication and conflicts down the road. And that reactionary behavior that we have, it may only come out with certain people. Maybe it doesn't always come out with your kids. Maybe it comes out with your partner. Maybe it comes out with a parent. Maybe between your kids, it's only between siblings. When we are feeling powerless, we will assert power over other people. So think about those power dynamics and we'll actually do a little exercise about that. But just think, what if our body was trying to protect us, right? Those responses that we had, please don't tell yourself that they're bad or that they're needing fixing or that they're needing changing or that you need to even that you need to rewire your nervous system. We're going to do that by actually saying yes to those feelings. Say thank you first. Your body's brilliance prepared you to survive in the state that you had and the experiences that you had. So what does your body do to signal that it needs safety? That is the question that I wanted to make sure that you did not miss. What does your body do to signal that it needs safety? I told you what mine did when I start to feel threatened, or if I'm going to share something that's very controversial and I'm like, am I sharing this in the right way? Does this make sense? I want to make sure my words are right, authentic. Sometimes I will start to shake because it will make me afraid. And that's my body saying, not that I'm wrong or that I need to do something or change something. It's my body is reacting from a past pattern. So me being able to, again, there's breathing exercises. We'll talk about some physical things that you can do, but sitting with those feelings. And I'm not asking you to analyze your childhood. I'm just asking us to admit, where are my reactions interfering with my relationships, and what are my body cues that I'm feeling unsafe? What are they? Because when we're feeling out of compassion, but I don't want us to try to rush out of dysregulation. I want us to sit with it and get curious about it. Just like you get curious with your kids, do it first for you. Okay, so what activates that authoritarian perspective? It's fear. We're not always in control, and that feels scary. So when I was asking you to think about your childhood, I was saying even authoritarian parents are feeling fear. They're feeling out of control. And they're because authoritarian parents are nice sometimes. It's not that they're always, especially if they're overly controlling, they're going to manipulate the way that they need to keep that as well, to stay in control, to keep that fear at bay. And they're looking for easy control, which is why it's easy to punish or even reward. And that emotional manipulation comes up, giving you things, taking things away, reward, punishment, keeps us chasing that connection, for one, that relationship, that illusion of self-control also for them. Even you may even be saying, no, I don't want to do any of those things. But our bodies might be telling us something else. It's fear. So look at what's the story here. What's my fear story? Telling people what to do and when to do it, it allows us to keep that illusion of self-control. But the story, it allows us to ignore that story that we might, when someone say I'm unwanted, or I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not respected, I'm not lovable, I'm not respected. I said that one. I'm not, what is another one that I'm not listened to. Like I don't feel heard. When our kids don't do what we want, I have air quotes here if you're not looking at the video, immediately those stories pop up. What's the one that pops up for you? Because what really can you control? We can control ourselves. We can influence the people closest to us. And then everything outside of that is where, yeah, we're going to learn to modulate those stressors that pop in, whether it's from society. So here I have, what's your experience? These are 6 relational domains. Yourself, your children, your partner or spouse, if you have one, extended family or friends, whatever maybe your closest circle is, and then your work community, your work and professional life, and then your community at large, like maybe the school community that your kids go to, or your larger social community that you belong to, whether you are involved in groups or local events. Those are the ways that we want to think about those 6 relational domains. And I want you to think about your experience when you are interacting with with each of these domains. So when it's yourself, it's think about the time that you spend with yourself. Is it mostly positive or negative? Are you hard on yourself? What does your self-talk like? I did not make you guys a workbook. I'm sorry. I know I usually provide workbooks, but you can screenshot this and then just like circle, or you can just jot it down. I know we might think about it and be like, oh, I got it, positive, negative, but if you jot it down, your brain will hold on to the changes that you're looking for and experiencing much better. So screenshot it if you want to, and you can do it on the phone if you're on the phone. But think about your experience in each of these relationships, and are your experiences mainly positive or negative? So if you're by yourself, when you're alone with your thoughts, or when you're with your child, and times that you are interacting, are they mostly positive or negative? When you're with your partner or your spouse, again, if you have one, or a really close friend, the left side, those are the people closest to you. That is your inner circle. We want those experiences, of course, to be mainly positive. Mainly, not to say that we never have negative experiences, but just to be mainly in that realm of having good connections, good relationships, good interactions. Are one of these areas stressful for you right now? Oh, yes. And I know if you have to run, it's 3:07 already, you guys. We're going so long. We'll probably go till 3:30. If you have to run, I will send you the recording. No worries. Thank you so much for being here and jumping off. We kind of got sidetracked a little bit there. So I appreciate those of you who are still hanging on. But think about each of these relational domains. What's your experience? When you are with the next closest people to you, whether it's your friends, your work community, or your outside community, what are those experiences? Are they mostly positive or negative? How much are they influencing your everyday experience? Because when I say that we want to like sit with our feelings, we also want to look at what's causing me stress. What relationships do I have the power to adjust or change? So the ones on the left those are your core relationships, right? If they're mostly negative, then where is that unhappiness rooted? And what do you have control over that you can change? Again, this is a task that we could really talk in depth on, and about your experience of your family and what that looks like. But even if you say, oh, you know what, I give too much time, not too much, but I give so much time to my child's school that it's affecting my relationship with myself, or it's affecting my relationship with my kid, because we're losing time doing XYZ. And I'm doing that because I'm trying to, whatever that reason is. Again, when we're giving away ourselves to compensate in some way, if we're not really fulfilling our own needs, we're doing it out of because our ego tells us that we're not good enough, or the unconscious messages are telling us that we need to do this to be loved, or to be wanted, or to accepted, we're going to unconsciously keep doing it. So thinking about where are we putting other people before our needs is how we can start to take back some of that, that feeling of everybody's taking from me and I have nothing left. So it doesn't mean that even that we're taking back, like maybe you do recognize, oh yeah, I am actually overgiving in certain areas. But also maybe it's just a recognition of where you need to put more time and where things are out of balance. All right. So you guys, what if we did not need our kids to behave, right? What if we did not need their calm agreement to get our needs met? We don't. We absolutely do not. So what's on our way? What do I need? When do I need it? I need more connection. I need it at least twice a week. I want this because, or I need this because it's going to help me fill up my cup. It's going to help me fulfill my need for intellectual stimulations. You all. So think about that. I'm not going to leave you with this. This is where we mix up things. So your happiness does not depend on their behavior. Quick exercise, because this is what we mix up all the time. I want y'all to think of your happiness is not dependent on their behavior, and also your needs are not dependent on their behavior. So on the left side are behaviors that we often want, and on the right side are needs. Often we are saying, I need my children to clean up their room. I need my children to attend family dinners. They need to be part of the family. Or I need my children to stop being rude or mean to their siblings or to whoever. Or I need my children to stop complaining. I need my kids to stop being aggressive. When we start to say that that's what we need, then we start to give away our power. We start to give our kids responsibility for fulfilling that need. So if you look on the left side of the screen, or excuse me, the right side of the screen, what need, if you've ever said any of those things, I need my kids to do any of those things, or any other need that you might have said, I need my kids to do X, Y, Z, what could it be connected to right now? You know, when I say I need my kids to clean up their room, what need do I have I do have an annotated. What need might we actually be having? What if the core relationships are mainly positive, but the external relationships are mainly negative? I find that those closest to you are more likely and willing to work through things, and they're invested in our lives. External relationships can put pressure on our core relationships. My quick tip for that, because it's going to be so unique, is time and space. So obviously, if you're in a job that is really stressful, you can't just quit your job, right? But are you going to stay in that position for the next 20 years and just deal with it? Because then you got to make a plan on how to deal with it. If not, we can say, okay, I'm going to make a plan. Here's my, and then start to work it out like that. But time and space means little bits of time and lots of space in between that time. So if there are external people or in our community that do cause us stress, I say we spend smaller amounts of time with those people, and then we put lots of space in between those visits or those connections, because then it gives us time to recoup and recover. And that's the quick and dirty answer is time and space. But every situation, of course, will be very different. Yeah. So clean up room, order. Yeah. I have a need for order, arguing, cooperation. Absolutely. Stop complaining. arguing, yeah, cooperation, stop hitting, kindness. So when we connect in with the fact that we're looking, I need order. When I see this mess, my anxiety is triggered because order helps me feel safe. When we start to admit that to ourselves, not only do we take the responsibility off of our kids, but we start to go, oh, what can I do, or how can I speak about this in a way that now communicates my real need? And not just, I told you to do it, you need to do it. Or even we might beg, we might not get angry, might just be like, I told you, promised to do this by this date. Why and we focus on that behavior. We focus on that action, that preference that we want, instead of getting in touch with the real need. And I know that if you shared, now you can't share, everything with small children, but can you share with older children? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can say, maybe you have to go back and repair. And it looks something like an order helps me feel safe and calm and like I have everything together. And when I saw that the laundry was left all over, I got triggered. And I apologize for yelling. I should have walked away and taken a moment before I did that. But I know that I was really needing order. That's what I was really hoping for. Say that to your 15-year-old, they're not going to start arguing about why they did it. It's going to hit them differently when you're honest and authentic like that. But we don't always know what it is that we actually want. We just know that I see this behavior that I don't like and I need it to stop. It feels like that investigation into your needs takes a long time. But once you start and you do the other thing, you notice those body signals. You start to sit with that discomfort. That's when the needs pop up. So that's what I was saying, like wait for something to come up. You'd be like, I was never respected as a child. That would pop up. Something will start to move around in there and come up. So that's what I mean when we say wait. It's because these deeper needs, these deeper feelings that we have will process when we take that time, when we're given that time, when we give ourselves permission to take that time. Again, it often feels like we have to rush. And there's not a lot of time to rush. So shifting from control to presence, what feels possible? I've been asking this question for the last few weeks. And that's because I don't want you to try to do things that feel overwhelming. If you start to sit with feelings and it starts to become like overwhelming, like you can't breathe, or you start to panic, or it feels so uncomfortable that you just have to escape your own skin, then stop. Then we do smaller intervals of like what feels possible right now means I feel like I don't have any words. So speaking doesn't feel possible, but just sitting here next to each other, quiet for a moment does feel possible. Let's just do that for a minute. Give yourselves permission to not figure it out, but to let yourselves feel that. Someone says this is very similar to trying to identify needs during meditation. My kids were arguing over chores and I had them rate each chore by what they liked to do or didn't. And they all bargained with each other and all the chores were completed. Everyone's needs were met. We were seeking win-win situations. Yeah. And it's so you learn so much more about each other when we share those needs. But what feels possible is please don't overdo it. Your goals right now are to allow yourself to feel empty and to get in touch with that reactive stuff and knowing when your body feels unsafe. That is the process that we do over and over, and it will build your tolerance. You will start to feel more capable and less reactive every time you do it. But it is a practice. You're resetting your nervous system, rewiring it. It's that the brain is like a muscle. So the more that you practice and use it and feel supported. So what also helps you feel supported? Do you have that support person? Do you have that friend that you can text, or that person that you see on the regular? Because the next question is, how can I remove control? We can't do that if we don't feel supported. So when we feel like when our mind is saying that our kids won't, or our kids are refusing, or they're defying, or they're ignoring, or they're stalling, and then our bodies start taking that information and creating a story to tell, and that tells our brains, that we're not safe, not that we think we're not safe. We know we're safe. We're standing in our kitchen. Nothing is wrong, but our body says something very different. And that's what we want to acknowledge. We want to accept that our bodies are trying to keep us safe and they're not trying to throw us off. But when I say decide on 2 ways you can remove control from your interactions when your mind is telling you those things, if you don't have the support, it's going to be hard to do that. So put that in place first, because we all want good relationships. We all want regulated kids, and we want them to be independent and responsible. So that model for them is, no, mom doesn't always feel, or dad doesn't always feel good either. But this is how they get through it. I watch them meditate. I watch them go for a run. I watch them splash water on their face when they're feeling dysregulated. I watch them put on that music and take a walk outside. Setting a new foundation is, I'm sure Dr. Kane is not the only person to use it, but in her book, she talks about bottom-up care. So I talked about earlier how we can think about the things that we know and that we want, but the bottom-up care is really about doing that work with our nervous system. If you're working like with a therapist, that could be EMDR, that could be working with a somatic practitioner. There's different ways that we can help our nervous systems rewire, especially if we've had a trauma history. It's not always possible to do on our own. These are some things that we can do on our own, but recognizing that bottom up perspective. So not top down thinking, analyzing, but bottom up feeling our way through it. And shifting the way that we talk about ourselves and our kids' behavior. So self-talk. If we have, I skipped over body scans. Body scans are rushing through it. So I don't know if we have time to go through it today, but body scans are when we are going through and feeling where the tension is in our body. And if we can take 5 minutes and go through each, go like start at your toes, walk all the way, go all the way up. Actually, I had it. I was going to take you guys through it, but I don't think we have time. If there's anybody that wants to hang on at the end, I'll do it with y'all. An interoceptive body scan. So we're taking notice of what's happening on the inside. And this is the part that we often ignore, because we think that because I'm thinking about what's happening to me, that I'm actually going through the process of processing my emotions, but it's not through thinking, it's through the feeling. So that self-talk, that's the body scan. And then the self-talk, or the way we talk about our kids. If we're constantly saying they never do this, they defy, they ignore, we're not going to have a lot of compassion left to help, because those words speak about the problem in negative ways. That's another thing that we could talk about a long time. Some of you are in my classes, you know that process of translating what we see to what kids are really needing, like what we see those behaviors are, and then translating how we talk about that from, oh, he needs more connection, he's feeling anxious, so he's doing XYZ because he's feeling anxious, not he won't stop and sit down and behave. It's changing the way that we talk about it. Mindfulness, whatever that practice is for you, if you can develop one, it's going to also help to reset your nervous system. But in the meantime, be okay with not being okay. That's how you process it. That's how you rewire it, is that your nervous system sits through the experience of not feeling okay, because it's not pushing away that emotion. It's not shutting down. It's actually staying. And then you come out on the other side, okay. And it trains your body that this is safe, that I can get through this. And every time we do that, strong emotions become easier to deal with. So we're never going to get rid of our bad things. We're never going to not feel pain. But if we can develop the strength to move through it without letting it overtake us, and like we're to the point where we're either not eating, we're not taking care of ourselves, we're letting our homes and our families fall into disrepair. That sounds extreme, but it's very easy to happen when we become overstressed, and to kind of just let things go by. And every day we're walking through kind of numb or afraid of making real choices. So just be okay with not being okay. You can say, I'm feeling frustrated and out of patience, and that's okay. It's okay for my kids to feel this way. It's okay for us not to get along in this moment right now. That's okay too. It's okay for your kids to disagree. That's the recap. When we start giving ourselves permission to feel and and we don't rush through and try to change our state. We feel less burdened by what's happening and by our feelings, by the emotions. It helps us resist those authoritarian impulses. And I think I said before, there's so much that I want to say that I couldn't fit into today, as you guys could see, but caring for people is not futile. And it sometimes feels like, oh, you know what? It doesn't matter whether we care or not, or they don't need all of this attention, or we shouldn't be spending time on this emotions. But what that does is it disconnects us from our humanity. It disconnects us from the empathy that we have for ourselves and for other people. And then that seeps out into our larger society. So I am so glad to have you all here helping me stay connected to my compassion, my humanity, not feeling burdened because I get to connect with people who are like-minded and hear your stories in that same way. Amanda says, what are your suggestions and resources on self-talk and reframing thoughts? So again, the quick answer is when you do that exercise where you become aware of what your body, like your body cues, the signals that it's sending you, that you feel threatened, that you feel unsafe, that helps you become more self-aware. And when you're more self-aware, then you start to notice that self-talk. Another really quick way to do it is to, like I used to do practices like try not to complain for 24 hours. And then you automatically start to notice what you're saying in your head and then what's coming out of your mouth as well. So it's the attention that we put on it. Resources off the top of my head, besides my classes, I can't think of any, but we do walk through a lot of that, reframing the words. Like, for example, in our classes, if you're not in a class, one of the exercises that we do is we take the self-talk and we simply just track it and connect it to what was going on. Where did my self-talk veer off? But self-awareness is going to be your biggest key. Again, that new foundation, resetting our nervous system starts with stress-proofing our lives a little bit. Doesn't mean we get rid of the stress. It means that we start to put things in place to buffer our stress, whether those are relationships, whether those are mindful practices, the first aid kit that you want to carry around, put one in your car, put one in your living room so that the whole family can access the first aid kit for when they're feeling stressed. If anyone, again's experience is dealing with trauma, then non-talking practices are best. So therapy, like CBT, can sometimes be, it's like, oh, I've already analyzed everything. I don't need, if you need to create a narrative, a coherent narrative around your childhood or your history, then yes, that kind of talking it out can be helpful. But oftentimes when we're looking at things like even self-talk, that's anxiety. It's overthinking because we have a stressed nervous system. So the most important thing to do is pay attention to our nervous system, not by trying to fix it and regulate it, but by letting it do its thing. And by once we go, oh, okay, I feel my heart fluttering, and maybe you put your hands on your chest. And this is the practice right here. And I stay trying to not overanalyze, but I just stay present with my body. And again, this is the bottom up processing. It's not top down analyzing our thoughts. Art therapy, things that don't require us to talk will also help us sit with discomfort and rewire our nervous system in that way. What are the signs your body sends? What relational domains feel out of balance? And then how are you going to become more curious about what's happening to you and about that depletion, right? So it's not fixing it. I'm going to start to journal about what's happening to me. And I'm going to allow myself to sit with it. I'm going to give myself permission. I'm going to give myself, many selves. I'm going to give myself permission to feel what I'm feeling and not rush out of it. The other exercise that I did want to tell you about, there's also something that I loved in this book called the channel change exercise. And I'll just read you really quick some of the outline, and then you're just going to get comfortable. where you won't be disturbed. Of course, close your eyes, you take a few deep breaths. You can do a body scan to release any tension, your toes, your, fingers, go through all your muscles from top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top, and just kind of release any tension. And then you imagine yourself in a calm place. It could be a place that you've been to before, a place that you create in your imagination, a place that makes you feel happy, calm. Notice the lights, the smells, the sights. What are you creating in your mind? This is your channel change exercise. So you're in that calm place. You're noticing the sights, the sounds, the smells, the sensations. You bring to mind a stressful thought, an image, or a memory. Notice the thoughts, the feelings, and the sensations come up for you. You don't have to do anything else. Just notice them. And if nothing comes up, because I've had this happen with other clients where we've gone through exercises and they're like, I feel nothing. That's okay too. Thank your body for checking out, for numbing out to protect you. Just thank it and take a deep breath. Your body is doing what it taught itself to do to protect you. The more you do these things, the easier it will be to start to feel sensations. So please don't be alarmed or feel like, oh, this doesn't work because I don't feel anything. That might happen. It's very common to happen. Okay, so just notice the thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and take a deep breath and shift your attention back to your calm place. So we're going from the stressful thought back to that calm place that we created. And notice how it feels to be there. Remember contentment that you felt, or the gratitude, or the peace. And then you spend a few minutes in your calm place, noticing how it feels to be there. Visualize a protective box at your feet as you inhale. Draw your breath into any areas where you feel tension or discomfort. As you exhale, imagine breathing out that tension and discomfort, putting yourself in a protective box. Once you feel complete, close the lid of the box and set it aside for safekeeping. These are just practices to reset our nervous system. You can also go back and forth to stressful image. You can practice, you can go to the stressful image or thought or experience, and then go back to your calm place, and then switch the channel and go back and forth before you create that calm protective box around you. Sometimes I remember when I first started doing this work, I'm going to close out and stop the share, come back. These practices would feel silly to me. Like, no, I don't have time to, and I've been meditating for 20 years. So don't get me wrong. It's not that I have, poo-pooed this, but it sometimes can feel like it's useless. Like if nothing's happening because we don't feel like an immediate, okay, great. I did my channel change exercise. Now what? Progress sometimes, and rewiring your nervous system takes time. But the more that you do these things, the more, now that was just one example of a practice. We'll keep talking about them. Even if anybody's in the free Conscious Parenting Academy, I know that there's some tools in there as well. But the more that you do these body-focused practices to remember your own body's intelligence, the more you're going to rewire your body to be more tolerant, to be able to be exposed to more stressors. Even it doesn't mean that those stressors are going to go away. It just means that when they hit you, they don't feel like you just got knocked over by a wave. They don't feel so all-encompassing. All right. I definitely had someone says, man, I wish I felt nothing. I feel all the things. I am right there with you. I'm also a feeler. And that is also something to like go back and forth. Like just as an example, if you were going to use that channel change exercise, stepping into that overwhelm, I feel everything, and then putting yourself in like that protective bubble of peace for a moment and just getting used to what that feels like so that your body gets practice in not feeling all the things, but also feeling calm and protected sometimes. All right. I know you're very welcome, Bella, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here. I have a few of the questions. Look, we're going so long. It's 3:36. I'll go a couple more minutes. I did not get to all of the questions, but I feel like we talked a lot about them, even though we maybe didn't address them directly. So let me just go to them, some of the ones that were emailed in. When I'm at a loss for knowing what is the best course of action, I had asked what feels difficult or challenging in the email that I sent you all. And someone said, when I am at a loss for knowing what is the best course of action in that very moment. So when you don't know what to do in that moment, don't do anything. Be okay with not knowing what to do. As long as no one, again, is getting hurt, then it's okay. Like, say to yourself, I don't know what to do. I feel confused. And then just sit in that moment. Again, when you can, obviously, if we're taking care of people, that time that we need to explore those feelings is not always immediate, but you can do it at the end of the day. We're not always going to, like, parenting and having a relationship with kids is so up and down. We don't, even if we think we know what's best, it doesn't always mean that that's exactly what was best in that moment. And feeling at a loss in the moment is very common. And she also said, or I'm sorry, I don't know that it's actually a she, but this person said, when I'm internally dealing with things with myself and I feel unavailable, this is when I feel drained. When I'm internally dealing with other things myself, and then I feel unavailable for my kids, or when I have a migraine and I'm really sensitive to sound or lights, it's hard to mentally concentrate on other things. When I feel like I've tried all the tools in my bag to meet a desired goal and I'm meeting resistance in my teen, or I don't know my next step. So that's where I want us to be okay with not knowing, not figuring it out. And if it's a teenager, you can say to that teenager, I'm at a loss right now, kiddo. I don't really know what to say or what to do. You feel this is unfair. You don't like the decision. You want me to change my mind. Or, I'm just using that as an example. Like, being really honest and then saying, I'm not sure where to go from here. I'm not sure. Would you be willing to talk later or after dinner? Or, let me think some more about this. I'm not going to change. I have no plans to change my mind. Like, we could be honest and say to our kids, I'm not planning on changing my decision, but I want us to keep talking about this because your feelings are important to me. Right. So we don't have to leave our limits to deal with those feelings that pop up. Like, we don't have to abandon our limits, because sometimes when we abandon our limits, it feels like we abandon ourselves as well. Oh, this is where I'm learning. This is where someone else said, I'm learning that fear underlies most of my son's difficult behaviors. He reacts in so many ways, unexpected and destructive ways, that it shocks me. Only later do I make that connection to fear. And in that difficult moment, usually in public, how do I quickly mentally process, though, to let him know he's still safe and do the right thing? So sometimes we can't. And it sounds like this is a teenager. Actually, I don't know. That might not be. I'm not sure how old your son is. Sometimes we can't. So we can do as much as we can to be proactive and to be that buffer to stress. And sometimes kids are still going to have those feelings. So in public, instead of making them feel like they need to change, offering to go with them to take space. Like, if someone's about to, how do I quickly mentally process, though, to let him know he's still safe and do the right thing? Okay. So about to do the right thing, that's where we don't have control. We can create the environment of safety. I have been known to just say right directly to my kid, you're safe. I know this feels really scary right now, but you're safe. How can I help you is a great question to ask. Sometimes they just need silence, and silence is what's going to create that safety. So mentally processing in the moment that's where we don't want to push away that fear that we have, because that's going to push us to then want to control, want to change, want to fix, want to demand, or want to check out and not do anything and then feel guilty afterwards. That's not good either. So just being okay with, I don't know what to do. It's okay for you to feel that way. And as far as keeping kids in safety, you can say, I noticed XYZ. Was it something that they said, or the way that their arms are crossed? And we know that that's their stress signal. And we communicate, hey, I noticed the stress signal from you. Do you need some space, or do you want to go where there's less people to get some privacy? Offering that instead of like the directive of what you think is happening, or what, really just noticing what we can see or repeat. that we heard, like the not making assumptions about what we think is happening for our kids is a way to help them feel safe. Because sometimes we want so much for them to feel loved and supported that we actually overdo it, and that makes them feel more anxious. So knowing, I mean, I don't know your particular child, but those are just some ideas to give you a kicking off point. Okay, any other? I'm going to stop it there because we have gone so long. Our brains are going to shut off and you won't even be able to hear me. Thank you to everyone who hung on for the whole time. I'm so grateful to to have you still listening to me blabbering on. I will send out the recording. I might even edit it, break it up a little bit so it's not like a whole big long session, maybe make it into 2 so it's a little more manageable for everybody. But thank you so, so much for being here. I hope that you feel a little more supported, like you have some tools and ideas to walk away with. And I know you have some homework to walk away with. So do that. Please stay connected. If you are in a class, please join us on our WhatsApp group. You can find the link in any of the classes. If you're in any of the paid sessions or the essentials group, you can have access to our WhatsApp chat so that we can connect more and talk more. But for everyone else, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Please send me in follow-up questions and I'm happy to connect more and answer them. If you do want to join me for my summer session workshop, it is half off through today. I might extend it to Friday because someone had reached out and said, I want to come to your webinar first, and then I won't have time to buy it. So maybe we'll extend it, but it's only $37 and we'll get to do this 2 more times. So I would love to see you and continue to support you. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Remember, conscious, not perfect. All right, take care, everybody.